Good morning and welcome to Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe. I'm Pastor Joe, and for this morning we're going to be reading out of Judges chapter 3, taking our study to the judge Ehud, verses 12 through 30. It says in verse 12 of Judges 3, "And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord." And we see this as a recurring theme in the book of Judges, that over and again as the Israelites find time to rest and to prosper and are no longer in need of God's direct help at that time, that they begin to wax cold, they begin to get a little bit lax in their trying to serve the Lord, and then they fail to serve the Lord and they do evil again in the sight of the Lord. And this is no different than all of the other times, and it's going to happen over and again. And it says, "And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel." We just talked about Moab yesterday, a lot later on in history, way down with Elisha. So Moab is a recurring evil, a recurring theme, again, in a recurring thorn in the side of Israel. So, strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel, and possessed the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. But when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, a man left-handed, and by him the children of Israel sent a present unto Eglon, the king of Moab. But Ehud made him a dagger, which had 2 edges, of a cubit length, and he did gird it upon his raiment, upon his right thigh, and he brought the present unto Eglon, king of Moab. And Eglon was a very fat man. And when he had made an end to offer the present, he sent away the people that bare the present. But he himself turned again from the quarries that were by Gilgal, and said, I have a secret errand unto thee, O king. Who said, Keep silence. And all that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came unto him, and he was sitting in a summer parlor, which he had for himself alone. And Ehud said, I have a message from God unto thee. And he arose out of his seat. And Ehud put forth his left hand, and took the dagger from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And the haft also went in after the blade, and the fat closed upon the blade, so that he could not draw the dagger out of his belly, and the dirt came out. Then Ehud went forth through the porch, and shut the doors of the parlor upon him, and locked them. When he was gone out, his servants came, and when they saw that, behold, the doors of the parlor were locked, they said, Surely he covereth his feet in the summer chamber. And they tarried till they were ashamed, and behold, he opened not the doors of the parlor. Therefore they took a key and opened them, and behold, their lord was fallen down dead upon the earth. And Ehud escaped while they tarried, and passed beyond the quarries, and escaped unto Sareth. And it came to pass, when he was come, that he blew a trumpet in the mount of Ephraim, and the children of Israel went down with him from the mount, and he before them. And he said unto them, Follow after me, for the Lord hath delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the fords of Jordan toward Moab, and suffered not a man to pass over. And they slew Moab at that time about 10,000 men, all lusty, and all men of valor, and there escaped not a man. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest 80 years. And so this is a very interesting judge in the history of Israel. He is one who, once again, a judge in Israel's history is one who takes them from a place of captivity and trouble and rescues them through military conquest and feats. And so Ehud here is a very interesting one, because the king of Moab, Eglon, is described specifically as a very fat man. Now, that's not politically correct. He was rather large, but the Bible still says it very clearly. He was rather large, not because of having muscle or because of being big-boned. He was very fat, and it's very clear there. And he had taken Israel, and they were serving for 18 years All right? And it says in verse 15, but when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, not long after, but when they cried to the Lord raised them up a deliverer. So Israel was serving Moab and suffering for 18 years before they finally gave in and said, let's turn back to God. That's a real shame, and it's the reason that they suffered so much through all of these judges' periods is because they did not serve the Lord. They didn't turn back to Him as early as they could have and repent. They instead just went on doing evil in the sight of the Lord for that 18 years. But when they finally cried out to the Lord, He sent a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, a man left-handed. Now that's very rare, and it's very cool that he was left-handed, and it's kind of neat because he's the only judge I know of so far in my studies. I think he's the only judge who's actually left-handed, which is really neat to know, or at least specifically named as left-handed. And I think if they named him specifically, they would have named others as well. So he's left-handed, and Israel devised a plan. They said, we're going to send something to butter up King Eglon. We're going to send him a beautiful gift, and he's going to be so happy to have it. He will receive that gift very proudly. And then you're going to sneak in there and do this thing. And so Ehud made himself a dagger, two-edged. It's a sword, for pity's sake. It's a cubit length, which means it's anywhere from 16 to 20 inches. It's as far as elbow to fingertip. So elbow to fingertip, if he was my height, would be pretty long. I mean, for a dagger, I don't know if you could imagine. Just hold your arm up and imagine a dagger that long. And that was his dagger that he was using against the king of Moab, Eglon. And so he hid this dagger on his right thigh. He strapped it to his right thigh in a way that he could reach over and grab it. I have a feeling he probably had it hidden. Wow, I don't know. But it would be really tough to hide, but he had it hidden. They went in. They apparently didn't have any TSA agents because they didn't check him properly if they did. And when the gift was given, and he told Eglon, he said, he sent his gift bearers away as if he was being real shrewd and sneaky about something. And then he says to Eglon, he says, I've got something special and secret to tell you. And he says, oh, keep silent, be quiet, be quiet. And he sends his people away. And his men go away to where it's just Eglon and Ehud in the room. And it says that they're in a summer room. They're out there just sunbathing, enjoying the day. Eglon being a very large man. And Ehud comes and says that God has a message for him. He gets up out of his seat and he plunges the entire 18 inches of the dagger all the way to the very hilt of the handle, all the way in, until his body just swallows the dagger up behind it. And it says the dirt came out. I hope you understand what that is. It means that it pierced through his intestines, and it just came out of the hole that was left behind by the knife. And after he had done this, he walked out, locked the doors behind him, and went on his way. And the servants, when they came and saw the locked door, thought, oh, he's just trying to be private. He's probably, not clothed properly. So we'll leave him alone for a while. After a while, they said, what's going on? They got a key. They opened the door, and they were like, oh, my goodness, he's dead. And all that time, Ehud has gotten himself back to the camp of Israel, and he's led them out to get them ready for battle. They cross over. They fight Moab. 10,000 men of valor, very strong, very handsome, very powerful men, all knocked out that day from Moab. Moab was subdued, and the tables were completely turned. Now Moab is serving Israel instead of the other way around, and the land has rest for 80 years. So that's kind of an interesting thought then, that it took them 18 years to repent, after it took them however many years of doing evil for God to be upset with them enough to sell them into slavery, so to speak. And now they've got 80 years of peace. And it's good. It's good. That means for 80 years they served the Lord and didn't fall away from him, at least not in large part. So we remember Ehud as the man with the dagger plunged into the fat man Eglon, the king of Moab. And so kind of an interesting judge, kind of a crazy judge, and really not the most pleasant story. But hey, it's a story from the Bible that's really cool because it's got some details that you wouldn't expect otherwise, like the fact that Ehud is left-handed and that he did make an 18-inch two-edged dagger and that it did go all the way in and was never recovered. Not that you would want to. And so, just kind of a cool story about the judges. What we can learn from it, once again, is that over and again the reason Israel had trouble was because they did evil in the sight of the Lord. Be careful not to do evil in the sight of the Lord. And the thing that got them out of it was not a man with a dagger, although that man with the dagger did help. He was the answer from God, who was answering because they called out to him. Because God is always plenteous in mercy and ready to forgive. He wants to forgive. God doesn't want to hold you accountable for sins. He wants sins to go away and to be covered by the blood. So, God bless. Make sure you're serving the Lord today. Have a great day in the Lord, and I'll see you again tomorrow on another daily devotion with Pastor Joe.